Okay, good morning. So, last class, okay, good morning. Last class, we started the last module that was security cryptography and how network security can be implemented in different layers. So, basically, we need to understand how uh, security is implemented at network layer, transport layer, and application layer. So we just went through some preliminary of this cryptography, and we saw that there are five services to be provided. Okay, so four of these services, first four, are related to messages, and the last one is for the NDT. So, first four are related to messages. Message should be confidential. There should be integrity. Should be authenticated. There should be authentication and non-repudiation. As well as the NDT should be authenticated. So these are the services to be provided when we use a network security of any layer. We need to provide these services. So first one is confidentiality, which means transmitted message must make sense only to the intended receiver. To all others, this message must be a garbage. Now, encryption and decryption provide secrecy. Okay, so we had seen symmetric key encryption, asymmetric key encryption. Now, integrity. Integrity means data must arrive at the receiver exactly as they were set. So first one is no one should make out any sense of the message. The third party should not make out. Second is integrity. Data must arrive exactly as it were. Say Alice wants to distribute her wealth upon her death, so she would write a will, maybe digital. So it is not that it should not be seen by others, but the content should be seen, should not be modified, should not be changed. That is the meaning of integrity. Or some last class I told data some amount transaction is there, that value of that amount should not change. That is integrity. So what we do is normally we would in physically we would sign at the bottom of the document. We make a prepared document, and it is assumed that it cannot be forged. So others can verify our signature with the signature on the document, and that integrity is preserved here physically. But electronic equivalent of integrity is the document and fingerprint pair. So instead of that, the electronic equivalent is message and message digest pair. We saw last class that from the message we apply a hash function and then create the message digest. So that would equivalently serve as for message integrity. That is the electronic equivalent. So this is what we saw. Message is there. We apply a hash function to create a message digest. So in our physical case, document and print are both physically linked in our physical case. Whereas in electronic case, it could be unlinked or sent separately. The main thing is this digest should be kept secret, or it should be encrypted if it is sent. The digest which we create from the message using a hash function should be kept secret, or it should be encrypted if we send it. This digest is created by a hash function, and it is called MDC, modification detection code. So it could enable the receiver to detect any modification. So that is the modification detection code. So that is the second aspect. The third aspect is authentication. So we should be sure that of sender's identity. So electronically, we have modification authentication code. Instead of modification detection code, we have modification authentication code. Like hashed MAC, etc. are the tools used. To provide message authentication, we need to change a modification detection code to a message authentication code. So this MAC can provide message integrity and message authentication. So there are certain MACs for authentication purpose. However, it needs a symmetric key. This also we saw last class. And instead of this MAC, which uses symmetric key, we can use a digital signature. It uses asymmetric key. So in asymmetric key, we have seen that the public key and private key. So in digital signature, the recipient receives message and the signature. Recipient apply verification technique. So like in the physical document, you verify the signature. When you do the verification of the signature, you need to have a copy of the original signature in physical verification. But in electronic verification, there is no need of a copy of the original signature, but an verification technique can be applied to verify the authenticity. So we saw last class that in a cryptographic system, when you have an asymmetric key, there is a private key and a public key. The private and public key is of the receiver in cryptography. Whereas in digital signature, we have a private key and public key. So it is asymmetric, but it is public key of the sender. So there is a difference between the normal cryptography system, private key and public key, and digital signature, private key and public key, where the public key is of the sender. And in cryptographic system, the public key is of the receiver. So that's a difference. So digital signature itself, you can have two methods. One is signing the message itself in digital signature. The whole message. So when you look at this, this is public key, this is private key. So this is the method of digital signature. When whole message itself is sent, signing the document is encrypting with private key of the sender, and verifying the document is decrypting with public key of the sender. So public keys of the sender in digital signature. It is different from the cryptographic. So verifying the document or decrypting with the public key of the sender, signing with the private key of the sender. This is signing the message itself. Or sometimes, rather than signing the message, we create a digest using some hash function, and so digital signature has two versions. One is signing the whole message, second is signing the digest. The public key is very inefficient in cryptographic system. We are dealing with long messages. So in digital signature system, messages are normally long, but we have to use public key. The solution is to sign the message, not to sign the message itself. Instead, we can sign a digest message and signature. So the digest which is generated from the message, that can be encrypted. That can be signed. So two versions, signing the digest in digital signature and signing the message in digital signature, and the public keys of the sender. This is a difference from the cryptography, in which public key of the receiver. So basically, if you are having a digital signature, out of the 5 services, 3 services it will provide: integrity, authentication, and non-repudiation which we haven't seen yet. I just mentioned last class. So all these three services are provided by digital signature. So this non-repudiation is, suppose someone say makes an instruction, and later on that sender is denying that it didn't make an instruction to a bank or something like that, then the burden of proof falls on the receiver. So receiver has to prove that the sender has already told as an instructor to transfer an amount like that. So this sender must not go back on its word. So that is a message repudiation. That is the meaning of message repudiation. For example, a customer sends a message to transfer money from one account to another. The bank must have a proof that customer actually requested the transaction. So that should be ensured. That is the fourth service. So what we use is, we use the service of a third party called trusted sender. So we use trusted sender. So solution is trusted third party. People can create a trusted party among themselves. So there is a third party here, which is called the trusted sender. So message is there, signature from Alice is there, then that is verified and signed by the trusted ST, signature from this trusted sender is there. So that this will solve many problems containing security service and PHA. So this is using a trusted sender, we can implement this message non-repudiation. So non-repudiation can be provided using a trusted party. Now the fifth service, so confidentiality, integrity, authentication of the message, and message non-repudiation. In addition to that, NDT authentication is a technique to let the party prove the identity of another party. So an entity can be a person, it can be a process, a client or a server. The entity whose identity needs to be proved is called the claimant, and the party that tries to prove the identity of the claimant is called verifier. So these are our normal password, OTP, all these things. How to prove that that entity itself is authentic. So message authentication and entity authentication, two differences. So message authentication, it need not happen in real time. So that authentication and that transfer of money, all those things need not be on a real time basis. Whereas entity authentication is time dependent, real time. Now message authentication simply authenticates one message. The process needs to be repeated for each new message. Whereas for entity authentication, authenticates the claimant for the entire duration of the session. Once that verification is done, for whole duration of the session you get. So these are the differences between message authentication and entity authentication. Entity is a real time and it is for a session. Now you have a challenge response authentication. The claimant should prove that he or she knows a secret without revealing it. Okay, that is the challenge response authentication in NDT authentication. The challenge will be posted by this verifier, time varying value sent by the verifier. Response is result of a function applied on the challenge. So this is the normal challenge response authentication. Nonce means a large random number that is used once to distinguish a fresh authentication request from a used one. Some random number. So a request is going from Alice to the user, and this Bob would send a number, random number, and that has to be encrypted and sent. Should be verified. So that is the challenge response system. So these are the basic of these services which need to be implemented at different layers. So we need to find how security is implemented in the internet. So one is IP security protocol. IP security protocol should somehow add authentication confidentiality to the IP protocol. That is at the network layer, or these protocols at the transport layer or at the application layer. So we'll see one by one how these services are implemented in the different layers. Now, common structure of these three security protocols, whether it be at the IP or at the transport layer or at the application layer, we need to create a MAC. So that a message authentication uh, instead of this message modification detection, we have MAC. So that has to be created anyhow. That I have written here. Message authentication code. So that will help in authentication. So that has to be created. And we need to encrypt the message and probably the MAC. So we have a payload. Payload for a IP would come from transport layer, or for a transport layer it would come application, or this is from a process for an application layer. So the payload would be there, some form of MAC, and then this much portion are encrypted. And there is a security protocol header as well as trailer of security protocol. These also could be encrypted or not. That hasn't been shown here. Only that payload and this MAC, which helps in authentication, integrity, etc., are along with the payload is encrypted. This is a lock. So all the protocols take packet from appropriate layer, higher layer, and create a new packet which is authenticated and encrypted. And there would be a header and trail. So a common structure of the three security protocols at network layer, transport layer, and application layer. There would be a header or trailer of the security protocol, may or may not be included in the encryption packet. Now, in addition to this, one common issue in all these protocols is security parameters. So Alice and Bob need to know security parameter before they can send secure data to each other. That means the sender and receiver should agree upon some set of parameters, like which algorithm to use for authentication and decryption. There are a lot of algorithms. So which algorithm will be used? Then what are the keys used? Public key, private key, this public key should be shared. So many information should be shared initially. So these should be shared. So these are called the security parameters. So in all these three protocols, one common issue is how these security parameters are shared initially. So the first protocol, which is called the IP security. So this is the protocol used at the network layer. IP security is the protocol used at network layer. IP security is a collection of protocols designed by the Internet Engineering Task Force to provide security for packets at the network level. So this is the IPsec is the security protocol designed by Internet Engineering Task Force for providing security for a packet at network layer. It helps to create authenticated and confidential packets for the IP layer. So these are the components associated with the IP security. So there are actually two modes. One is transport mode and a tunnel mode. And there are two protocols, authenticated header and encrypted. We will see these two, and in a just preliminary way. So TCP/IP protocol suite and IP security. So this is where this is the position of network layer, and IP security is designed to provide security at the network layer. So this is another protocol which provides security at this layer. Now there are two modes. One is a transport mode, and a tunnel mode. So difference is this tunnel mode is providing security for the header. IP header itself is included. IP payload and IP header also is included in the security. Whereas this doesn't provide, uh, this header is outside of the security. Only the payload is given security. This header is outside. Maybe this started initially, and later on we had this tunnel mode. So in IP security, in the transport mode does not protect the IP header. So in the transport mode, this IP header is not protected. The transport mode. Whereas in the tunnel mode, this header is protected using IPsec. So in transport mode, it only protects information coming from the transport layer. So transport mode is in the network layer. In the IP security, it protects only the information coming from the transport layer, or only the payload is protected. Whereas this one is protecting the header also. So the transport mode, so protects network layer payload, does not protect IP header. The IP security header and trailer are added to the information from the transport layer. IP header is added later. Okay. After this, IP security header, and so for any protocol to work, there should be a header for that. So apart from IP header, you need IP security header for this IP security to work. So this is a protocol. This requires header. This also requires header. So which means IP security protocol should work, it needs header. All the information would be there, and trailer for checking. And IP header is added after that. So we normally use when we need host to host, end-to-end protection of data. So this transport mode is used from host to host service. The sending host uses IP security to authenticate and or encrypt the payload from the transport layer. The receiving host uses IP security to check authentication and decrypt the IP packet and deliver to the transport layer. So all this information would be there in the header of this IP security. So this is how transport layer mode works. Transport mode works. Now the tunnel mode. IP security protects entire IP packet. IP security is protecting the entire IP packet. It takes an IP packet including the header, and applies IP security methods to the entire packet, and then adds a new header. Tunnel mode is normally used between two routers, not end-to-end, or between a host and a router, or between router and a host. Entire packet is protected from intrusion between sender and receiver. It's as if whole packet goes through an imaginary tunnel. So there is whole protection for this entire packet, as if the whole thing is protected and as if it goes through a tunnel. So it is protecting the header as well. So these are the two modes of IP security: transport mode and tunnel mode. IP security in tunnel mode protects the original IP header. Now again, we have two protocols. Again, here, AX and ESP are two security protocols. We will not go into much detail. Authentication header protocol is this AH protocol in transport mode. It's designed to authenticate the source host and to ensure integrity of the payload. It uses a hash function and a symmetric key to create a message digest inserted in the authentication header. So you have a transport layer payload, and here you are adding a header. Here you have a format for the header. So there are explanations for all these. So I have not included all these. It is anyway there in the book, all these next header file outline for it. And there is a authentication data. So authentication header is placed in the appropriate location based on the mode, transport or tunnel. When IP datagram carries AH, value of protocol field in IP header is replaced by value 51. So that is something happening here. In IP header, there is a protocol field. So when this AH is used, that field would be 51. So these are included in this authentication header. All the security related uh, information would be there in this header, and this is the format of this header. So you have 2 bytes, 4 bytes into 1, 2, 3, 4. So 16 bytes are there. So this is how the various fields are there. Now, AS protocol provides source authentication and data integrity, but not privacy. So here we have another protocol called encapsulating security payload. That's the meaning of the CSP. In transport mode, AS protocol does not provide privacy. So this protocol is not providing privacy, only authentication and integrity. So only authentication and integrity, not providing privacy. So IP security later defined a protocol that provides authentication, integrity, and privacy. So that all these three functions are there in encapsulating security payload. So this adds a header and trailer. ESP's authentication data are added at the end of the packet, which makes its calculation easier. When an IP datagram carries an ESP header and trailer, the value of protocol field in the IP header here would be 50. In this there is a protocol field. So this is the structure of this ESP. You have a trailer here and you have header, and this is the format, and this is the format, and it essentially it gives authentication, integrity, and privacy, all three functions. So here there is authentication data. This is ESP trailer, encapsulating security payload trailer, encapsulation security protocol header. For every protocol, you need some header and trailer for that protocol to work at the receiver. So encryption is there, authentication is there, integrity is there. So that is why we have this MAC and the hash function, all these things. Once you implement all these things, you get this function. Authentication, integrity, and also this privacy is also included in this. So there are two security protocols, AH, authentication header, and this ESP. So this provides three functions, and there are two modes. One is transport mode and tunnel mode, and this provides protection for the header as well. And Again, we need security parameters to be exchanged. TSP provides source authentication, data integrity, and privacy. Now, this IP security, it supports both IPv4 and IPv6 services. It supports both IPv4 and IPv6. Now here, this AH does not provide this function, confidentiality, whereas ESP is providing this service as well. Okay, so this is some attack protection. This is access control. This service is not provided by AH. Whatever it is, IP security provides supports both IPv4 and IPv6. So this ESP provides this function as well, confidentiality. Now, security association. So the source and the receiver, Alice and Bob, both should exchange some security parameters before it can be operated. So IP security, and this is transport layer, and this is application layer protocol. In all these protocols, we have this set of security parameters to be operative, uh, to be exchanged before it can be operated. Now, in IP security, the establishment of security parameters is done via a mechanism called security association. So, security association is the mechanism by which the parameters are exchanged initially. So, a set of security parameters can be established between a sender and a particular receiver for the first time. The sender has a datagram to send to that particular receiver. So, first time it is established, these parameters are exchanged between the sender and the receiver. This set can be saved for a future transmission of IP packets to the same receiver. So, subsequent communication, this can be saved and used for future transmission of IP packets to the same receiver. So, using security association, IP security changes a connectionless protocol IP to a connection-oriented protocol. Actually, IP is a connectionless protocol. Datagram service at the network level. It's a connectionless protocol. But when we use security association, we are actually sender and receiver are exchanging some parameters. Sort of becomes a connection-oriented protocol. We can think of an association as a connection, some establishment of connection which is actually not there in IP. In IP protocol at the network layer, there is no prior establishment of exchange of any information between sender and receiver. So when Alice and Bob agree upon a set of security parameters between them, they have established a logical connection between themselves called association. So initially they should be agreeing upon some set of parameters for the sake of security, which algorithm and all those things, the key, etc. has to be agreed upon. However, they may not use this connection all the time. After establishing the connection, Alice can send datagram to Bob today, another datagram a few days ago, and so on. If they are saving that connection for future use, they can save it and use the same set of parameters next day or a few days later, like, like that. So it becomes a sort of connection oriented. So we have many mechanisms for this security association. So, these are all these terms which I have told the last class in hash algorithm. This is again uh, encryption algorithm. So the protocols, whatever is used, the parameters. So all these are exchanged. All these have to be exchanged initially, and some form of exchange of parameter has to take place initially. So this can be again complex. Security association is exchange of parameters. So this can be very complex. And if this is particularly true if Alice wants to send messages to many people and Bob needs to receive messages from many people. So Alice could be sending messages to many people. Bob would be receiving from many people. Now, in addition, each site needs to have both inbound and outbound security association to allow bidirectional communication. So inbound and outbound security association is there. So in other words, we need a set of security association that can be connected into a database. Now this becomes a security association database itself. So the database is called security association database. Database can be thought of as a two-dimensional table with each row defining a single security association. Normally, there are two security association databases, one inbound and one outbound. So many parameters are there, inbound and outbound, for each recipient and for each sender. So it becomes a database itself. Now, security association is the uh, initial exchange of parameters between the two parties. So we'll see little more detail next class and then continue further.